newscaster. Today we are here for the Q&A.
We've done the full Dark Hour experience. Now we're going to go and watch the Q&A for all the details, the questions everyone had, but didn't have time to ask during the tour. So if you're interested in that, let's go take a look.
What happened? Amateur operation. You can see me, right? Yeah. You know who it is. All right, you guys make some noise. We're going to do Q&A with the Dark Hour creative team. This is your time to shine. Coming up first, he runs media. He's the video. He's the photo master. He is Robert Alcala. Don't make me motivate. Coming up next, she gets all the costumes made, she gets the molds made, she gets the scenic painting done. Give a round of applause for Bug. And heading up our marketing and our promotions team. You're going to see her tomorrow in the Dark Hour booth on the show floor, Leslie. And the mistress of the makeup room, who you may have already met in the back, Hallie. The jack of all trades and escape room master, Boston. Casting guru and scenic painter extraordinaire, Teddy. The Stitch Bitch and all-around costume badass, Stacy! And keep that going for the other costume badass, Alex! And running Still Be Studios, filling out all the costume orders and keeping the gears greased in the back, we have Rue! He knows how to swing a hammer, he knows how to work a drill. Heading up Bill Crew is Chris. And now, the head of operations. Wait a second, they're getting antsy back here. Operations manager, pre-show manager, technical manager, Jay. And of course, let me out. Not gonna talk normal. All right, and of course, last but not least, our owners and all around make everything happen here at Dark Hour. You know they're internet famous, not just because of their OnlyFans. Ellen and Shannon Hobbs. Yeah, that mic's on.
Okay, great. So this is the Q&A. Any questions? How many feet is it? Do we know?
It is, but it is just short of half a mile. It's like 2,000 and something feet. Because I do have those stats somewhere, just not on the top of my head.
And you did it twice, and then backstage. So you probably walked a mile. Yes.
Well, I tell people out front when they're like line jumping because they don't want to go to the end and around, they just duck under. Like, hey, don't bother. You're going to walk a long way before you come out the end. It's a Q&A. Throw those hands up if you got questions. Right there.
How many actors were there here tonight? Is that your average show?
Teddy! I'm gonna track behind the big. I can't do this.
Hello. So tonight we had 30 actors. Typically we run between, on our hot nights or really, really busy nights, we run between 70 and 120. Yeah, there you go.
On those nights, we're going to run 3,000-4,000 people through the show that night. Tonight, knowing we're running 100 and some through the show, lower act. How many do you have tomorrow?
Tomorrow is about 45 to 50. So a little bit more, but not as much. Like, it's still not as much as our normal hot nights. Oh, you have a question?
So the 70 to 120, are they all on the show floor at the same time, or are you running them in like some people in, some people out?
No, we don't do a rotating shift. Everybody is in the show at the same time. However, the way that we design, the way our cast utilizes the space is through a lot of rotating within the show. So it's not like anybody is not seen or seen at the same time, but they run loops opposite of each other. So we cover a lot of ground during bye-bye.
And when we have 100 actors in the show, they do less. I know that sounds weird, but tonight the actors had some freedom where they were able to hit 3 or 4 spots and get a couple different scares because there were fewer groups. They were, you know, a little bit more spread out. Y'all moved slow. Honkers do. They do this. But then when we're running 3,000 people through in a night or 4,000, this is your spot. Someone comes by, you scare them, and then you go back into your spot because the next person is right there. There's no freedom to run around. So I would prefer to work with a little more movement freedom. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Can you explain the cobwebs with the cobweb gun and how y'all do it? Yeah, I'm totally lost with it.
All right. I love hot glue gun cobwebs. I really like them. And I think that a lot of people get frustrated with them because they buy the $20 one and it's barely putting out any cobwebs. It takes forever. On my YouTube channel, I actually have a how to make a cobweb. It's a $200 glue gun. That's the answer. But I can lay down a gallon of hot glue in 20 minutes because it'll just as fast as you want to do that. So it'll just go. That's the kicker. Is you set it up with a really nice glue gun, a high-end glue gun, and if you looked inside the pumpkin, like the giant pumpkin that we just made, there was like it looked like a weird bed sheet. That's hot glue, because we just went, and it'll cover a space in moments. It's a high-end glue gun, set on a high temperature, and the cheapest glue sticks you can get your hands on. Uline, you buy a giant carton of glue sticks for like $70, and they're garbage, but they make really nice webs, and they react to black light. Any other questions? Yes.
Timing-wise, how do you manage 3,000 people in a night?
Jake.
Time, he said timing, how do we manage throughput? So tonight, you guys, like Alan already kind of mentioned, you were going in small groups and spacing it. We know how many people are here. We know what kind of time frame we got. On an average haunt night, it's not like that. I think tonight we were minute and a half or minute 45, I think, between groups. On a full throttle night, 8 people every 30 seconds. That does mean that it's a conga line by the time you get to that big pumpkin section right there at the beginning. But like Alan kind of touched on, we have more actors. They can do less, but there's more of them. And it is more high startle, bam, 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 bam. So on those nights, it is kind of more like a theme park level event as far as like the throughput and getting people through. And the way that you kind of manage that is like just put so much crap in there that everybody feels like they saw everything. They may have missed some stuff. The more stuff, the better that you bombard them with. Next question? Right there in the hat.
This is for the marketing team. How early do y'all shoot y'all stuff for like your advertisements before they actually go out to TV?
There's how early they want and how early I let them. I'm sure Robert will touch on that.
This year we shot early, like 2 months ago, May. And then you get all that stuff, you edit it, and you start feeding it to your marketing department. But, just keep shooting, always it's always something new.
He had his hand up.
Yeah, with the 100 plus actors that you have doing your on season, do you have different costumes or they're all in different costumes?
Alex?
Costume question.
We have multiple costumes of pretty much everything. So like we have multiple trick-or-treaters, multiple mummies, multiple everything.
Well, I mean, when you're on the floor, so if every actor is a different costume.
Pretty much.
Well,
Like there's some.
They don't share a
but it's-
costume.
Yeah.
I
There's-
saw multiple masks back there, so I was asking that question.
Yeah, there might be like 2 werewolves and yeah.
That kind of turns into a story question a little bit. Every witch, there's 13 witches. Each witch has 3 types of followers. And then you have the coven itself, and there are just coven characters. So they're just members of the coven that aren't as tied to any of the witches. But the Goblin Queen. The Goblin Queen is going to have goblins, she's going to have orcs, and she's going to have fairies. So you might come on a night where there's 6 fairies. You might come on a night where there's 6 goblins. You might come on a night where there's 2 orcs, 2 fairies, and 2 goblins. Because whatever they wore Friday night is normally gross and wet on Saturday night. So even if it's the same people, we might change it up. Because some costumes take time to dry, we're gonna have extra of those.
And to that end also, I just want to add, Alan talked kind of like the theme of 13 Witches. What you guys saw tonight is kind of a sampler of our show tomorrow, Fang Frenzy, Dead by Dark Hour, where it's interactive, and we first did that show and it was kind of 80s slashers, so it wasn't werewolves. This is essentially the same show, but the characters are werewolves. When we do these off-season events, we try to change.
This show wasn't werewolves.
It wasn't werewolves.
This was October characters.
October characters with the Dead by Dark Hour soundtrack.
Right.
Yes. There's also Dead by Dark Hour lighting. But the point I'm getting at is when you come in October, like I mentioned earlier, for the amount of people, we do all the stops around, all the bells and whistles, all the special effects, all the lights are on, all the everything. Any kind of little thing that's eye candy is in action. For some of these shows, and some of it tonight, we use smoke and mirrors to kind of hide stuff. And it's to give the show a completely different feel. The soundtrack's another part of that. Like you notice it was all kind of 80s like slasher music. That's what we want for Dead by Dark Hour. We have 50 plus sound zones in the show. If you came back for Halloween, you would notice that instead of the constant everything throughout, like every single section stands alone on its own. There's the goblin section, the vampire section, the werewolf section, and so on. And so we use a lot of that. It's kind of cheating, smoke and mirrors, but the show feels drastically different because before COVID's when we kind of changed up stuff. Prior to that, we were doing 8 openings a year, and every single one was different. So you can imagine like what you saw tonight, but change that entire show out 8 times. That includes October, Halloween season. So like, as far as our work schedule goes, we were murdering ourselves every month of September. So we did huge changes. So there's kind of some trickery there, but it also allows us to have some stuff built into the show. And it's like, hey, this show is this in or out, is this off or on? So we kind of get to play around with a lot of that.
I had a note on the having different characters that follow each witch. That helps with character sizing also. So maybe you have a witch that has the 3 different types of followers. Let's say, you know, the Goblin Queen that has orcs, fairies, and goblins. That's your small, medium, and large characters, your small, medium, and large actors. That way you can swap in and out. But if you have a character calling 6, something like that, it's another costume ready to go for a different size person, ready to go into that same realm without having to worry about having different size people working the same area.
I saw a hand somewhere over here, right there.
Going back to your audio shows, do you do your own sound design in-house?
Design, yes, we do our own sound design. Sourcing it could be anything. I buy a ton of royalty-free effects off royalty-free sites. Pond 5 is one I like, but there's a bunch of them out there. That's typically for sound effects, some short music bits. We use music scoring for a lot of it, like the playlist, like we have going right here, Party Time playlist. But every year, the playlist of music while you wait in line changes from year to year based on what our forefront theme is in our marketing and in our storytelling. But we do it all in-house. It's all edited and it's all managed in-house. I do it all in my office, edit whatever I want. It's uploaded into the system, and then I can walk around with an iPad, set volume levels where they need to be throughout the show, and every night when it's time to start, it's one button on, one button off every night.
We also pay ASCAP and BMI in order to use music. So we pay those, and that's normally based off of your projected attendance.
Over there?
So on nights when you have a full house and a full parking lot, do you send folks out to put the crowd outside? Daddy coming.
Yes. So the question was, when we have busy nights, do we have actors like queue actors? People outside entertaining people. It doesn't matter if we're busy or not. Yes, we have actors in our queue. That number does range on like how busy we are, but I would say our queue acting team is 6 to 8. So we have 6 to 8 actors that are dedicated to the queue line. And then on our really slow nights, maybe 2 or 3. There's always a stilt walker, there's always a slider, and then there is usually a ground character on slow nights, and then it just builds and multiplies from there.
Yeah. Next question, anybody? Back here?
You got 13 witches. You have 13 different scenes or something, and then you change the scene up, you change the witch.
If I want to change a significant portion of the show, I kill a witch. And that way, the show will change by a certain percentage every time I want to kill a witch. Right now, Dark Hour's not finished. Like, I want to get it finished, where every witch has their own section represented the way that I want, and I'm not there yet. As soon as I get it finished, then I gotta kill a witch. And I know the next witch, I know what she's gonna be, I know what her culture is, I know what her follower characters are gonna be, I know all that. I don't know which witch I'm gonna kill yet, but once the show is finished, it'll probably be the weakest area, or an area that has gone through very little change over our 11-year history so far. Did I answer your question?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Right here.
What's that again? There's not really a ceremony for when the witch dies. It's basically what happens is we stop casting those characters, that whole area goes away, and in the off season we have built a new area, and then that is revealed. Now, we have like a little cartoon video that we do of all the witches, and that would change, and we may very well show the death. We had different witches in the beginning, and so many of those are dead now, just because we stopped them. You know, we stopped using them. Or they just didn't make sense. Or they were a really cool concept for a witch that's really hard to pull off in a haunted house. Like the fire witch. That's not safe.
I'm trying.
So that witch died.
One day.
Snuffed out. That was fun.
Any other questions? Nope.
What's your average time per character, makeup and costume?
Hi, makeup. We take about, I think it's an hour and a half for makeup every day. So like their call time, the actual call time is 4:30, and hopefully shortly after the call time they show up to makeup, and then we get them all done by about 6:15, I think is when they have their meeting. Right?
How long is each makeup?
Each makeup. I want to say 5 minutes max. Yeah, and it's all airbrush. Yeah, longer if it's prosthetics.
Less with the mask.
less if it's a mask, like in a couple seconds.
I probably have the shortest amount of time with the actors. Casting with Teddy. He gets me the list of all the characters beforehand, so I have everything ready and numbered. So they just show me their number, and I give them the coordinated costume, like 5 seconds.
That does lead to some fun drama, because often we have talked about the costumes and the parts and the pieces, and then we find a way to attach them to a hanger, but there's no instructions for the actress. Every now and then, they have gotten creative and their belt is a headband or something weird, and we have to catch that at like cast meeting and say, no, this goes on your face, or whatever it is, and we have to, yeah, we have ideas, that we make the things, and then we have to share the ideas, and that's the harder part. So only having that 5 seconds to mark their name off a list and hand them a coordinated hanger, that means there's a second trip of like, is this pants? You know, that happens a lot.
We got one over here.
Teddy, what is casting like? How does that process start?
Oh, our cast meeting? Okay. Do you just want like an overview of what we do in our opening meeting? So one thing is that we don't do closing meetings. I and my cast want to get out of here. It's tiring at the end of the night. But for our opening meeting, for the most part, I just try to hit all the notes that, just retrospective stuff from the week before. But, like tonight, we haven't been in the house for a couple months. So right now is just managing expectations, being very positive, letting them know what exactly I want to see out of them, what I expect to see out of them, what I hope to see out of them. And then we rah-rah really hard. We yell, scream, jump. We do a haka, and the biggest parts of our...
new person, what's a haka?
1 second, we'll get to the haka. The most important part is our stretches and vocal warm-ups. We are very much treating the backstage like a theater during the opening of the show. We make sure everybody stretches, we make sure everybody does vocal warm-ups, and also some just things to get like improv games, anything that they might need to, to succeed. And body language, we do it basically a different exercise before the show. It lasts like maybe 2 minutes, but just something short. And what is a haka? It is Alan, do you want to do it? They just keep saying show us.
Well, we will do it, we'll do it, but so what a haka is, the Maori Islanders of New Zealand, they kind of figured out, hey, we're on an island, and if we keep going to war, we're gonna die out. There's not enough men to repopulate the village, so let's stop going to war. And all of the tribes agreed, we'll have, basically it's a dance-off, but it's a war dance. So they have a war dance that they do, and which is set up to intimidate the other side. And whoever is the fiercest and whoever has the best display, the one side goes, oh, I don't think we can beat that, so you guys win the war. And they act like they really won a war. But that mock violence, that substitute for bloodshed, that's what we have to do. We have to find a substitute for actually killing people, because I don't let them do that. So the haka is just kind of an amp up that we do in order to raise our blood level and whatnot. Yeah. Rue, come here and show them the haka.
Yes, he does.
Stay on the costumes.
They're stomping.
Go through.
Cool time! Come on! bit of it. That's enough.
Here's the most important part.
I am scary! I am scary! I am scary! I am scary!
That's the important part.
We do that too.
150 people at once.
It's really neat to see everybody doing that at once. It's kind of crazy.
I'll be walking through the show doing a last minute check on something, and I mean, I hear it across the building. So to be close to it and feel that energy just coming out of people, I make the building shake, but I cheat and use speakers and stuff. Like, I know there's just 100-something people back there that are like ready to scare the shit out of you, and that's pretty frightening when you hear them shaking the walls like that.
What's funny is that little bit of the haka summoned MJ around the corner. MJ used to work here, so MJ's like, what was the haka's happening? Yeah.
I think we had a question right here.
Yeah, from a casting perspective, is there any certain trait or quality that you find consistent amongst your better scare actor hires?
Is there any trait or quality that I find better when I'm looking at new hires? Is that basically what you're asking?
What's the more consistent common trait that your successful scare actors have?
My more successful scare actors aren't actors, they're good teammates. They're people that take direction well. They're people that want to work with each other and do things together, whether it be for the show or away from the show. I've said this from the beginning of my career doing this. I don't hire actors, I hire team members. I hire people that I want to be around, and I think that's pretty successful. For the most part, there's like there's no guidebook on like what you should look for in a new hire or in a new actor, because someone can be an awesome actor, they could be a great performer, and they could be a really bad team member, which is useless to me. Or they could be an okay actor, or not an actor at all, but they can be really ready, willing, friendly to everybody, and ready to learn, and I can make good scare actors. That's my job. So I'm never afraid of someone who's just willing to work with us. So the quality I look for is good people.
See a hand back there.
Don't be a dick is the short answer.
Yes.
Don't be nice.
Right here.
What about the casting process? How early do you start? How rigorous is the casting interviews?
How early do you start and how rigorous? They love you tonight.
Yeah, I guess casting is interesting sometimes. So, how early do I start casting? Well, we figure out what the show's going to be throughout the whole year. It's a ever-evolving process. So I'll say I start casting the next show. I don't know. I think I started like 3 or 4 months ago. So the good thing about our team that we have now is I already know who's coming back. I've already asked those questions. I know how many people that we want to run already for the season coming up. And at the same time, we have so many off-season events that I get a constant temperature check on that. Every few months, I get to see all my kids. I get to know what they're doing. I get to talk to them, and I can already make the decisions of like, oh, well, this year we'll try them there. This year we'll try them there. Oh, but we're currently working on it because I'm also on the build team, the scenic team. I know what's happening. So I'm like, oh, well, we're building this, so I need to start thinking about this. And me and Alan will get together and talk about the characters that are going to go in and stuff like that. So I start casting. The best answer is I start casting November 1st.
Next question. Anybody? Nobody? Right there. Have we ever had a space alien witch? I think we had a warlock in 2017.
So we had a warlock called the Chrono King, who looked like a space witch because there were LEDs and lights and armor pieces that were more futuristic, styled after a tabletop war game called 40K. There's like space librarians, something in that. Like, it's really cool art. I like the look of it. So that is the tech Chrono King, who was a master of time. We had that witch. Generally, aliens don't do well in haunted houses. Generally.
That show was psychotic. That was back when we, like I mentioned earlier, we do 8 different shows a year, and we went heavy with re-theme. So that was the year that the Chrono King scrambled everything, and you went through all of our off-season shows at once. So there was a Christmas section, there was a Valentine's section, there was a St. Patrick's Day section, there was a Exorcist section, there was all this stuff that we did throughout the year. We just like shoved it in for October, and it was all over the place, but it was in your face too. Like, you didn't get a chance to breathe during that show. It was pretty crazy. Question right here.
Would you describe the making of the angels up there?
The making of the angels up here. There's a company in Colorado called Distortions Unlimited. They make great stuff. We gave them money, and now we have angels.
If you only need 2, buy it. If you need 5, make it. That's kind of the rule.
I don't know how much history on the backstage part, because this is a lot of group to do on the backstage, but when we opened, this used to be a sporting goods store, and there was about 8 weeks that we had to set up the haunted house part, because the previous owner bought the building, remodeled it to be a haunted house, offices, bathrooms, all that stuff. And then when they were done with real remodeling, like construction, it's like now we get into the themed entertainment part of it. When you're talking zoning terminology, we had about 8 weeks. So we had 3 off-property warehouses where we were prefabricating stuff. But in that period, we also bought a ton of stuff. Nowadays, you saw our shops in the back. We do mostly fabrication. We buy parts. We pretty much make everything these days. But the first couple of years, there was such a rush. We bought a lot of stuff. We also customized a lot of the stuff we bought. Those angels, you can't tell, but they had a custom paint job to make them look good in the stage lighting.
Now, were that marching those custom for you, or is there something they offer next to notice?
Those are actually, nowadays, those are worth a couple grand a piece. Because this was a foray that Distortions did for a very short amount of time, where they were making molds out of spray-on bed liner and doing hard foam props. They did very few of these. They're kind of a sought-after as collector piece because, but the previous owner bought them for home punk, and they were bequeathed to me with a small giant debt of buying a haunted house. So now they're here. Yeah.
And I put them up high and far in the back so they're hard to get out. Any other questions? Next one. I see one back here. Come back to you. Right here. You have your hand up. Yep.
What's the most expensive scene?
The most what?
Expensive scene.
What's the most expensive scene? I think you're sitting in it, if you count all the lighting.
You know what? So, as an owner, it's not a scene. It's not a scene that's expensive. That the cost of your materials is actually kind of minimal. I can have the same scene and I can have 6 guys work on it for a month. Or I can have 2 guys work on it for a year. The one that had 2 people working on it for a year costs more. It's labor, it's hours. So whenever you're thinking of the cost of something, the people building it that's where the cost is. And I know it's kind of terrible, but I can't open the floodgates on a set or a project 6 months before it's due. Because how long will it take? 6 months. How long can we do it in? Can we do it in a month? Well, then that's 6-month project. We're gonna have a month to get it done. We did scenery for a big event recently, and it was a lot of pieces and it was a lot of work. And I scheduled pretty much, it was 1 week for us to do it in. But if I had scheduled a month, we wouldn't have made any money. Because you only get so much money for the things that you're doing. And no matter what I spend on the show, only so many people are going to come through it. So it's really about managing how much time you spend on something. I don't want to let anybody go. I want to have a big team of people who make a living from the haunted house. That means they have to kind of make a living. I don't pay everybody what I want to pay them. I've had talks with a lot of them, they're like, it's I could let half these people go and pay the other half more. Who wants that? You know, what scene costs the most? Yeah.
I think I speak for most of us up here, and we've expressly told Alan not to fire people instead of taking raises. We want to be able to do this. We want to be able to do this with our friends.
If you want the fun answer, probably the most expensive per square foot is our escape room. Yeah, it's about the size of a large scene, and it's I don't say dollar bills, but it's a lot.
That was over 77,000 because that was the budget. You went over that budget. So the escape room.
It didn't come to fruition in a normal way either.
It also took over a year to build.
Yeah.
So some of that cost is labor cost because the build time is long.
And I think you had one, right? Go ahead.
While going through, I saw a couple of pieces that were from a different haunt. How many pieces, or I guess they say, how many haunted houses have you purchased pieces from to come here?
This is a sad question. A lot of people want to open a pro haunt. Not all of them, but some of them went to a haunt one time and saw a long line of people and imagined a $20 bill over each of their heads and said, I too want to open a haunted house to have all these people come through and give me money. And the reality is it's not that simple. Like Boston pointed out, I did not give a fun answer to what cost the most. Because a lot of things cost the most. Electricity bills are frightening. Sales tax is terrible. I hate that thing. But there's all kinds of stuff that are the hidden costs, and haunts fail. I have been in the industry a long time, and that means a lot of the time I get the first phone call. Hey, I'm going to shut down my haunt. Do you want to buy my stuff? A lot of the time it's clown stuff or hospital stuff, and I don't want to. But sometimes it's really cool stuff, and I would rather give that a home and let people continue to see it. There are things in the haunt from Phantoms, which was a haunted house that used to be around here. It was a hayride and a haunt in this area. There are things from Scaregrounds, American Scaregrounds?
Dallas.
Yeah, Dallas Scaregrounds, where we had some employees from there for a little while, and we bought some props from them when they shut down at an auction. I'm a cannibal. I will gladly eat the dead around me and make them part of the show. It's just part of what happens. One day, someone's going to buy the remains of Dark Hour because either we moved on or we didn't make it. It happens. And I would rather live on someone else's haunt than all go to scrap or just sit here and get moldy.
One back in the back.
When you're designing a scene, do you design the scene first, then the characters, or do you do characters first, then the scene?
Okay, so that part of the process depends, all right? If a character, meaning a witch, that's gonna be what's strong enough to trigger a whole big change, jumps into my head and it is a strong character that I can build a scene around. Or I might be intrigued by a culture and a building style, and then I want to tell a story around that. So it depends. Whatever strikes my fancy, whatever leaves the biggest, boldest impression is what I'm going to start with. But every everything that we have, every different area, it is a setting, it's a situation, and then characters. So a schoolhouse is not a theme. A haunted schoolhouse, that's your situation, is. You know, I like a little more specific than that. So, you know, then you develop from your characters why they're haunting, and is it really possession? Is it demons or is it ghosts? Demons are way more fun than ghosts.
Next question, anybody? Got time for a couple more if anyone's got one. So I'll hand back here.
Actor stuff. So do you guys have like Actor of the Night awards, Actor of the Year, Scare signs? How do you handle actor morale? About trophies, patches?
Sure, I'll definitely run that down for you. So, I have been managing actors for now like 16 years. I'm 35. I've been doing this since I was a kid, but I've learned over those 16 years of managing actors that actor awards at the end of season don't work for me, but not in the traditional sense. Do we give actor awards? Yes. We give, technically, what you may be familiar with, we give an actor of the night every night, but it's not an actor, it's a zone. We give a zone of the night, and then at the end of the season, we give a zone of the year. The reason being is that while it is important to recognize your people, I find it more important to recognize your team than it is to recognize the individuals. It keeps our egos in check, it keeps their egos in check. And those are just things that you can't really be upset if you won Zone of the Night or Zone of the Year, because so many people were in that zone. We have so many actors and we have such a rotating cast of people that some of our actors may have been, of 3/4 of our haunt have been in the zone that won. They contributed to that. And we look at that throughout the whole season of like, what did they do? What did that zone do differently? How did that zone affect them? How did they affect the zone? Stuff like that. But we have something called Montague Summers. It is a dead corpse, and they fight for it because it is the corpse of a witch hunter. So every night it changes realms. So one night it'll be vampires, one night it'll be goblins, depending on who does it best. Some nights, sometimes it's vampires 4 times in a row. I'm not biased and I'm not here for participation awards. We want to make sure that it's earned. So right now Montague is in vampires. He is directly across from Lalandra on the stage. I was actually standing there with Maddie, the actress who plays Lalandra, and somebody like touched him, and I was like, that's funny. But he's literally right across from her, and he will stay there until next season. Also, in our cast room, there is a headstone attached to the 12-foot Skelly Boy. I made that for them. So they have the headstone, they have the rights to the headstone of Montague Summers, the witch hunter, because we hate witch hunters. So that's our actor award system. It is a competition for a dead body.
Next question.
What do you do with the costumes of the deceased witches from previous movies?
I am a thorough cannibal. Parts of their costumes ends up in other costumes. If you are a current witch, you get your own hanger and possibly a garment bag. Once you are deposed, your bits go anywhere they look cool.
Remember when y'all went through the costume room and you saw some of those costumes way up high by the ceiling? Some of those are probably dead witches and dead other stuff that we haven't used in a long time.
And there was another question over here. Yeah.
Out of all the shows you've done, what's been your favorite scene you've created?
Out of all the shows that we've done, what's my favorite scene that we've created? Does someone else have an answer?
I can tell you my favorite. I'll let Chris go first.
I am the lead builder here, and I built a few of the scenes. My favorite one previously that I built was Lalandra's, building the balcony and everything in the stage. It was really cool to try and figure out the best way to make that work and make sure it was safe for the actor. Now my favorite scene is the giant pumpkin. I finished that a couple of days ago. It was. No, the face was done. The rest of the room was not because I was working on the face. The pumpkin's my favorite.
Back, I've mentioned a couple times, we used to do so many shows. Thinking back to what we did before the pandemic was insane, like how much work we put on ourselves. But part of that, Alan and I kind of alternated directorial duty because you do a show in April, then there's another show coming up in May, and then, you know, about every 6 weeks, we're opening the haunt with something totally different. So back then, one of the things that I came up with that he signed off on miraculously was we had the theme of the show was like possessions and spirits and exorcists and all this kind of stuff. And so this was off season. We did very small groups. We could do a long pre-show session, which we could not get away with these days, especially during Halloween time. And none of this stuff exists anymore, so I won't try to reference it. But we basically had a guide that walked you through a section of the haunt and was like telling you stuff and asking questions. And in the background, we hired professional stuntmen that looked like construction workers working on a broken clock. And when you walked by, a transformer exploded, and one of these guys flew 12 feet off a scaffolding and landed in a dumpster full of metal. And that was all pulled off by, obviously, the stuntmen doing the fall, but we had strobes and fog and stuff with the explosion, and kind of some surround sound effects. Like, it's made it sound like he hit, like, very painful stuff. There wasn't a big fall mat hidden. But that to me, I'd never seen anything to that extent pulled off in just a haunted house. And shortly after that, it was like, you're on your own, good luck, and now you're like actually walking through the haunt. But that was all part of the pre-show. Every single small group walked through, and one of these guys fell off. And I think at the end of the night, they said it was something like, there were two guys that rotated, like, you know, that up and down, and each one, I think, did 75 falls that night, somewhere in that range.
I have another short answer to your question on favorite scene though. We're all such excited builders that our favorite scene is our next one.
There's been a lot of times where somebody on this stage finishes a project and they don't say, everyone come look at this. They say, Alan, come look at this. But the rest of us know what that means, and we should go check it out. And we do. And it kills productivity for like half an hour because we're all standing there going, oh, that looks awesome. So.
And then Jake lights it, and then we have to look at it again for another half hour.
Got time for, I think, one more. Right there.
What would you say is your biggest challenge running the haunted house, and how do you try to overcome that?
Biggest challenge to running the haunted house, and how do you overcome it? And I'm looking at Alan. We all are.
Boston, forgive me. I'm going to give an unfun answer first, and then I'll give a fun answer. There's a surefire way to make a small fortune in the haunted house business. That is to start with a large fortune. So, that's true. So, the biggest challenge is keeping the doors open, keeping the lights on. In order for me to meet payroll, meet electricity bills, pay all of the fees that we have to pay throughout the year, insurance, all that stuff, I have to start at the bank with almost $1 million after October. If I don't have $1 million, I don't have breathing room. And that's when you see me working my butt off to sell costumes, get people to go to my monster museum, make sure that the off-season, every off-season show is a gamble. Fewer people come to those than in haunt season. So the gamble is, will enough people come to offset my payroll costs to make the show worth doing? So that's always a fear, that's always a question. And though that little show could be, I can make enough profit from an off-season show to cover 1 week of payroll. There's a lot of weeks of payroll. So the biggest challenge is just having a big enough stack of money, or spinning my wheels hard enough and doing enough work for other haunted houses and for theme parks and stuff so that we keep the lights on, we keep the AC on, we keep people working. That's the challenge. I'm not here to make a pile of money. I'm here to make cool experiences, and I'm here to make a fun place to work where people get to work on their ideas and make cool things. I don't think I'll ever make a heap of money, but it doesn't go in my pocket. It waits until I have to pay insurance, until I have to pay electricity or whatever it is. I work for the privilege of putting on a show for you. I don't work for money. I work for the privilege of having 20-year-olds who work for me and realize I can make a living doing things that I like. Even if it doesn't work out here, I can make a living doing things that I like, and that sets up a pattern for their life where they're going to be happier than if they work somewhere that sucked. The biggest challenge of working here is knowing what waits for these guys if it doesn't work. I want it to work. So the big challenge is keeping it open, keeping the lights on, and keeping the light in their eyes. I deal with the bills. I deal with the taxes. I deal with insurance. I deal with lawsuits because I need to keep the lights on in their eyes, keep them dreaming, and it shows in here. That's the challenge. And keep loving what I do every day. I'm happy every day driving to work. I love what I do for a living. I do so much of the things I love, I think one day it might kill me. But I really love what I do. Without doubt, I love who I do it with. We are wrapped up for time. It's about time to start heading towards the buses. I want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, and I know these guys want to thank you too. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for making the trek. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you enjoyed the Q&A and the backstage and seeing how we do it. I end all my YouTube videos with go make stuff, and because I think it heals people. Go make stuff.
We're not done progress. We're up here. Got something else for Alan. I don't know how many people know because it's all over the internet. Somebody's got a birthday coming up tomorrow. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Alan.
I hate fun. Joke knows.
Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll be
Thank you.
hanging out by the buses.
Okay, so that was awesome. Everything tonight has been fantastic. It's all been fascinating, and I don't think we could have possibly had a better time, do you?
No. It was the best time ever.
It was. It is like 10:30. We got to take the bus back to the hotel. Let's go get some rest, and we'll do Texas Haunters Convention in the morning.